Alrighty, so we are officially live for our final workshop of the fall semester. I'm super excited for everybody to meet our guest speaker this evening. Our guest speaker is Dave Meltzer. I'm going to give a more proper introduction as we get further into the workshop. But for right now, Dave, thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad to have you. I'd love if you could just share with me a little bit about yourself and some of your background. I know some of the students are starting to file in now for our first 10 minutes of the workshop. By the way, we won't get started until 8 o'clock. But Dave, if you could just share with me a little bit about what you do and some of the things that you've accomplished. And I would love if after 8 o'clock we go into more of your story. But for right now, just kind of like a brief overview of who you are and some of the things that you've done and some of the things that you're working towards.
Sure. I mean, as a professional, I run Sports One Marketing, CEO of a global sports marketing company, sponsorship, media. I'm an author of 4 different best-selling books. I speak around the world. I'm a top executive business coach. I have another media company that I run out of New York as well. And everything I do has a common mission of making a lot of money to help a lot of people and have a lot of fun. So my personal mission in life is, not only to make money, but to allow that to come through me for others and to have fun. And so anything I do has to have a charitable purpose or cause. As a little bit of a background, my education is I went to law school at Tulane University and worked in the internet and for a company we can go into later that journey, but worked in the Silicon Valley for a wireless proxy server company, and then was CEO of Samsung's first smartphone, where I met a guy named Lee Steinberg, which put me into the sports realm. And that's how I got my job in sports, was as CEO of the most notable sports agency in the world. Most people know Lee Steinberg from the movie Jerry Maguire, but I believe my entire life to leave many options open, to not limit the point of entry of what I do, and to really have a value-based life. And we can talk about the monetary side of what we've been able to accomplish and what I do. Today, I sit as chairman of Unstoppable Foundation, where we build villages and communities in Africa to help empower full families, but a lot of the younger women that are forced to get married at a young age and drop out of school, but providing water, financial services, and medical care, education, etc. And then I'm also the chief chancellor of Junior Achievement University. I do a lot in the entrepreneur space. My podcast is called The Playbook. It's the #1 entrepreneurial podcast right now out, which is really cool. I work with Entrepreneur Magazine on a TV show that I produce, and it's in the 6th season, called Elevator Pitch. So if any of you entrepreneurs out there want to learn how to pitch, raise money, that's a great show for you as well. I just did a movie called Beyond the Secret. So if anyone's in the transformational leadership space, I sit on the Transformational Leadership Council with people like Jack Canfield from Chicken Soup for the Soul, who I wrote a book with, Bob Proctor, Mary Morrissey, Sharon Lecter, just a variety of great transformational people. I have a very, very eclectic background. I'm really open and free spirited and figuring out what to do in helping people, and truly try to live my life of service, and really have had extraordinary experiences, like I said, through my entire career, which we can go into detail when everybody kind of comes on. Uh, Sports One Marketing, we've been around for 11 years. My business partner is Hall of Fame quarterback Warren Moon, who I met at Lee Steinberg's. He was a client of Lee's and also a partner of Lee's and then of mine. And we spun off Sports One Marketing to do that, to kind of work within the context of utilizing the biggest names in sports to raise money for charity, to help people. And we work at the biggest events in the world. So if you're a sports fan, our company works at the Super Bowl, the Pro Bowl, the Masters, Kentucky Derby, the Breeders' Cup, ESPYs, Emmys, Oscars, Grammys, thousands of different golf tournaments, charitable golf tournaments that we're involved with elite events, just a variety of different things that we utilize to bring the right people, the right companies, the right media in order to amplify and perpetuate good. I have a philosophy of being kind to your future self and doing good deeds. My major purpose and why I'm here tonight is that I'm reaching the point of my career where I just want to impact of over 1 billion people on earth to be happy. I think we have a huge happiness problem. And if I, throughout my lifetime, the next 60 years or so, if I can impact, 1,000 of you to impact another 1,000, impact another 1,000, 1,000 times 1,000 is 1 million, 1 million times 1,000 is 1 billion. I do these things at night and mornings and day long to help all ages of people, but people to empower them to empower others to be happy, and especially have alignment with Indiana. My daughter's a freshman at the University of Indiana, and so I got to meet everyone there when Ohio State, I think, gave Indiana last loss.
It was a whooping. It was pretty
Well,
bad. But
they are number one in the country. So if you're gonna lose to someone, might as well lose the best team in the country.
that's true. That's exactly it. But Dave, I love it, man. Your story, I love. There's so many other things that I really liked. I think one of the first things that stood out to me about one of the things that you just mentioned was that you earn, your goal is to earn money so then you can make an impact on the world. Like, you truly see your capital as leverage to make impact, and I think that's amazing. I think that's really what we should be doing as people, as humans. We're all, I guess, servant leaders in the sense that we are working towards how can we possibly make the world a better place, and what can we do with our time, with our resources, with whatever we have to make that impact. And you're truly doing that, and I love that perspective. And I think you had a post the other day about it's about the journey, not necessarily the destination. I think that goes very much in line with that happiness problem that you're talking about, is we get so caught up with the what is the end goal? Did I end up getting there? Is there only one journey or only one path towards getting to that end goal? And I think what you do a great job of is shedding light that, one, there's multiple paths towards getting there, but two, even if you don't get there, that's okay, because ultimately, what are you deriving from right now? What can make you good and happy at this given juncture in time because of what you're learning and what you're, I guess, getting more insight into? What would
It's
you
so
say? Do
funny.
you agree?
Yeah, I think it's so funny because I think two things come to mind as you're talking about that. Is one, when I was in law school and had $100,000 of law loans and coming out of school in a recession, if I would have been attached to an outcome, being an oil and gas lawyer and sitting and litigating oil and gas my whole life. Here I am, 51 years old, and I'd probably be miserable. No matter how much money I would have made, it's not nearly the experience or journey that I've been able uh, to ascertain here by, not attaching my happiness to an outcome. And I think I would have been really unhappy. And as we kind of go through my journey, you'll see, I have a different philosophy about happiness. I've lived an extraordinary happy life with its challenges and with its lessons. And I think the other thing that came to mind, though, is that one of the things about being a servant leader, and I think it's a big mistake that a lot of philanthropists and humanitarians don't take into consideration, is a general rule of mine, which is you can't give what you don't have. And whether it's the values that you have or money, and I think that you have to be realistic when you're young. And it's okay to receive a lot of money. It's okay to take care of yourself, to pay off your loans, to buy a house, to drive a nice car, to have security and savings so that you can say, send your kids to college and give them weddings and other things. But if your purpose is solely for you, then you're never going to be happy. There'll always be not enough for you. But if you allow everything to come through you and you take care of yourself, physically, mentally, spiritually, economically, if you take care of yourself, you'll be able to provide for others. And one of the best pieces of advice, I will go through my ups and downs, but a couple of years ago, I reached another pinnacle in my career, both purpose wise and profit wise. And so I asked my wife, who I adore and is my savior, I asked her, what can I do for you? And she told me, take care of yourself, because if you take care of yourself, I know you'll take care of others. And it was interesting because I had always prioritized my family first, my business second, and my health third. And as I got older and older and fatter and stiffer and out of shape, I started to realize that when you have wonderful children, which I have 4 of them, 3 daughters and a son, and you have an extraordinary family and extraordinary business, that you'll never choose your health because there's always something else to do with your family and your work. And I ended up neglecting the most important thing, which was, I consider my health my existence, and I was neglecting my existence. And so now I have a minimum of an hour a day, every single day, 7 days a week, that I attribute and focus my attention, my intention, and I get the coincidences that I want out of my health and my existence.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I love that. That's a really good perspective. I think the health component and just treating yourself right so then you can impact the other people in your world and in your life is so crucial. And sometimes it's something we neglect. And now I know the majority of the people that are watching this are 18 to 22-year-olds, so they're not necessarily as concerned about their health, maybe not at this juncture in time. But it is something that is important to think about. It's something to start building positive habits now as opposed to negative habits, because it can stick with you throughout the rest of your life, both for the better and for the worst.
We
So
both
you're
know that. We both know that very well.
Yes, that's very much true. So it is 8:02, so we're going to get started. I'm so excited to have Dave Meltzer here for our workshop this evening. This workshop is all about how to make the most out of that first job, that first internship. How can you be intentional about it so then you can drive your career into the direction that you want to take it? So as you all know, my name is Garrett Mintz. I'm the founder of Ambition Emotion. We've got Dave Meltzer here. I'm going to give a more proper introduction in just a moment. But I want to set the expectation for this final workshop. So now this is the 4th workshop that you all have come to. And one, I'm so grateful that you've been able to make it to all these workshops over the course of this semester. And I'm so excited for you all to see where you all take this program. So you started at the beginning of the semester and maybe you had a few internships. Or maybe you hadn't, I don't know. But I think ultimately what you're recognizing is that you are starting to learn more about yourself as you build and gain more knowledge into your career. And you are starting to make a more educated decision about what you want your next step to be. And I think that is ultimately the purpose of Ambition Emotion. I mean, if you sit back and you think to yourself like, oh man, I'm just going to show up, maybe I'll have the minimum 3 conversations with my mentor and that's it. And then you're just going to get an internship handed on a silver platter. Like, that's not how this program works. Like, if you think I'm going to just play Call of Duty for 10 hours all day and then just like be a part of this program and get a job or an internship just handed to me like that, that's not how this works. You got to put in the time and the effort. We bring in amazing speakers. We have you connected with amazing mentors, but it is up to you to apply that. I mean, this program is for the high achievers. It's not for the people that are not going to take advantage of this program. So I just always want to preface that, because if you can take advantage of this program, if you can put your time and your effort into this, you can achieve the outcomes that you want. I know, unfortunately, sometimes, as students, you think to yourself, okay, great, I've got to focus on this project or this midterm that I've got coming up, or this test that I've got coming up. And ultimately, the goal of what we're working towards is to pursue a career that's fulfilling. And unfortunately, sometimes I'll talk to students and the only vision, the only pathway they see towards getting to that fulfilling career is through GPA. When in reality, we know that 70% of all professional opportunities goes from knowing somebody in that network, knowing somebody within that company or that opportunity. And so I think at the end of the day, if you can take the time to carve out a little bit of time to network and to continue to leverage this mentor program, and as well as other networking opportunities, you will put yourself in a very great position to thrive and find that fulfilling career, or at least learn about what you like and what you don't like. But if you assume that everything you're doing in the classroom is going to be the same as it is in your career, you are not setting yourself up for success. So I just want to preface that. Now, this workshop is going to be about 45 minutes long with another 15 for Q&A at the very end. Please post your comments in the comment. Please post your questions and comments in the commentary. We will get to that throughout the duration of the workshop. We will be sure to answer your questions. Now, before we get started, I want to ask a question to you all. And this is a question about being intentional when it comes to your job or your career or your internship. And when it comes to your job or your internship, I want you to think, how do you want people to feel about you? In other words, what feeling are you trying to convey about yourself when you're in the job or the internship? How do you plan on immediately setting yourself apart? Post that in the comment section. I just want to learn about what feeling do you want to convey when you're in that job, when you're in that internship? How do you want other people to feel about you? Post in the comment section. I just want to set an intentionality about that. Now, when you're in the workplace, I just want to cover a couple quick tips that I have for you when you're jumping into that first job or that first internship. Maybe it's a second internship. But one thing that I learned from Dr. Robert Cialdini in his book Persuasion is the thing that is called what is focal is causal. And by that is, I mean that what people see is what they perceive. So when you are in your first job, when you are in your first internship, if people see you messing around on Instagram or on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, even if you worked your ass off throughout the duration of that internship, if what they see is you being on your phone dicking around, that's what they're going to perceive about you. Plain and simple, that's how they're going to perceive you. But at the flip side, if they see you taking on extra projects, if they see you showing up early, if they see you stepping up your game, they're going to perceive you as someone that's really hardworking. So when it comes to the workplace, what is focal is causal. And so I just want you to keep that in mind, because ultimately what other people see is extremely important. And by the way, it's not a matter of being humble versus bragging about yourself. I think I want to differentiate that. Because you want to make sure that people see you doing hard work does not mean that you're not humble. It just means you're getting acknowledged and being seen for the work that you're doing, and that you are cognizant of the fact that you want other people to see what you're doing. You don't want to be that wallflower hanging on the back of the wall, just kind of like working hard, but no one notices, because ultimately, if you're trying to build that positive impression of somebody else, you need to be seen. You need to be perceived. You need to be seen. You need to be observed. And then the other big tip is matching and mirroring. So when you're in the workplace, people build subconscious bonds between each other when they acknowledge, I guess, similar idiosyncrasies or physical characteristics between each other. So for example, if you were to run into me in the office, let's say, and I were a colleague of yours or a manager of yours, and I were to play with my chin every single time I make a point. If you were to do the same, you would be building a subconscious bond with me, because I would think to myself like, wow, that person has, I wouldn't even recognize that this person's similar to me, but I would subconsciously recognize this. Or if, let's say, I'm folding my arms in front of you, that's when I would say you got permission to fold your arms, even though typically folding your arms will create barriers between you and the person you're speaking with. If that's the body language that they're conveying to you, you can give that back to them, because ultimately you're building that bond subconsciously with them. If you want to test it out, it's a pretty fun exercise. If you've got any friends that are not part of the workshop, go to them, see if they have any different characteristics. Maybe they move their hands a lot when they're speaking, or maybe they talk really quickly. You can talk really quickly too. I guess also one quick point about that: don't imitate accents. If someone has a Southern drawl, or someone's got maybe an East Coast accent, you don't want to try to imitate that accent to build rapport, because it can be snuffed out pretty quickly. But the speed of speech is something that you can imitate, and that will build that level of rapport with somebody. But the point I'm making is that you can test it out with a friend. If you notice that they play with their chin a lot, and you start playing with your chin, do that for maybe 5 minutes when you're making your points and you're I guess mirroring their actions. All of a sudden, introduce a new activity. Maybe all of a sudden when you make a new point, play with your earlobe or something like that. And all of a sudden you'll notice that they do the exact same thing. It's the craziest thing. But when you're in the workplace and you're trying to build bond and rapport with other people at the company itself, one of the best ways that you can go about doing that, matching and mirroring. So before we jump into Dave, our guest speaker, I wanted to cover the 3 keys to success in this program for this workshop. We cover them every single time, but they're so vital that I need to reiterate them every single time. And that is your strategy, your story, and your state. And I said that in reverse order of importance. So your state is the most important thing for being successful in this mentorship program. I can promise you that. I mean, you might have been working your ass off all day. You might have had exams. You might have been stressed. You might have had an interview. You might have been sad, mad, angry, dejected, jealous. I don't care what is going on with your world. If you are in a state not conducive for receiving information, you will not be successful at it. Plain and simple. If you come in tired and hungover, people are going to read that. You ever meet someone who's got bad energy, bad vibes? You're like, man, that person's creepy. Almost always it's because they've got bad body language. So what I want you to do right now, because we've got a lot of great information for you this evening, is I want you to stand up. And I want you to shake it out. I want you to get loose. I want you to shimmy. I want you to move your legs. I want you to move your head. I want you to scream at the top of your lungs. On the count of 3, I want you to scream. Go 1, 2, 3. Yeah! Just let it out. Let it loose. Let it go. Because I know that when your blood is pumping to your brain, you are getting yourself into a state conducive for receiving information. You're releasing endorphins in your mind, and you're getting yourself ready to take on new challenges and to learn new information, especially if you've been sitting at an office desk or a computer desk all day, or in your classroom all day. Your body is stagnant. But when you are moving around, when you're shaking it out, you're getting yourself ready, physically ready, your physiology ready to retain information. I want you to be that way, because we've got a lot of really good information for you tonight. The second key is your story. And that goes back to the question I asked you before about what is the intention you want to set? What is the feeling you want other people to feel about you when you are in the working environment? I want you to set yourself a story for how do you want people to perceive you? And what is that story you tell yourself? Why are you going to be successful? We've talked in the past about how professional athletes will visualize literally the game-winning shot, 3, 2, 1, drill, just drill it right at the end of the clock. But when it comes to you and being in a business environment, how can you visualize what success looks like? So I would love, students right now that are watching right now in the comment section, I would love for you to type in, what is a dream, amazing situation from the very first job or internship that you've got upcoming for this either upcoming semester or for this upcoming summer or even this upcoming winter, if you've got one. What is the dream, the most amazing possible outcome that could happen from entering that internship? So maybe on the very first day, maybe you meet the CEO of the company. Maybe he or she takes you out for coffee. Maybe you build a really strong relationship with them and you think to yourself, man, I could really work at this company. I really enjoy what we're doing. I really like what we're about. I don't know. Write it in the comment section, but you set yourself up for success. Tell yourself a story for why you're going to be successful. Because I can promise you this, whatever goal you set for yourself, you can achieve up to that goal, but no higher. Like if you think to yourself like, man, I just want to go into work and just, not really ruffle any feathers and just, kind of do what I'm told. And that's just it. That's what's going to happen. Like that's what's going to happen. Out of the blue, you're not going to be receiving an amazing opportunity to do something totally different or something totally awesome. You're just going to do exactly what you're told, and you're going to get the opportunities that come with doing what you're told. But if you're saying, man, I would love to learn a little bit more about these different departments of the business, maybe you set an intention of having conversations with different directors of those departments in the business. So I just want you to set a story for yourself for why you're going to be successful. And then the last part is your strategy. So what are the things that you can do on a routine basis to help put yourself in the best position to succeed and thrive in that job or internship? I want you to think about it. What are activities that you can do and take on to best prepare yourself? And by the way, those are things that we're going to be covering tonight with Dave. But one routine that I think I would love for you all to get into, and this is your deliverable from the workshop tonight, is I want you to create a running list of 3 people you meet every single week and one new thing you learned about them. Literally write it down. Be cognizant of it, because when you write that down, when you start to think, man, I met with these 3 people today, they were totally different, and I learned this from this person, this from this person, this from this person, post it on LinkedIn. Tag that person. It's a great gratitude shout out. LinkedIn is the site for showing what you've learned professionally. It's a great place to give them a shout out. It'll make them feel good, and tag us. That's how we know that you did it. Alternatively, you can also take a picture with them. Send me an email with that picture. I love to see it. But ultimately, I want you to be cognizant of who are you meeting and what are you learning from them? Because ultimately, if you're cognizant of that, you're setting that intention, you are much more likely to remember information and remember what you learned about them. And when you rekindle that relationship sometime later on, you're much more likely to remember that conversation. So lastly, before we jump into Dave, I want to mention that this is the final workshop of the semester. We've already opened up signups for next semester, and I would love your help to encourage more students from your chapter to get involved in the program next semester. So if you referred at least 3 students to sign up for the program next semester, your deposit next semester cut in half. If you refer at least 6 people, you don't even have to pay a deposit. You're automatically into the program for next semester. I would love your help encouraging students to get involved and participate. So awesome. We are going to get started with our speaker tonight. His name is Dave Meltzer. So Dave is awesome. Dave is a CEO of Sports One Marketing. He's recognized as a premier global sports and entertainment marketing firm. He is a 2 times international best-selling author, a Forbes top 10 keynote speaker to hire, and an investor in the Splyce esports organization. David began his career in technology as the first CEO of Samsung's smartphone division, PCE phone, as well as executive roles at companies like Westlaw, Thomson Reuters, Everypath, and Accenture. He's also a top 100 business coach, the executive producer and host of Entrepreneur's #1 show, Elevator Pitch, and host of top business podcast, The Playbook. David sits on multiple boards, including as chairman of Unstoppable Foundation and as the chief chancellor of Junior Achievement University, which is ranked number 7. It's ranked the number 7 nonprofit in the world. He was awarded the Ellis Island Medal of Honor and as Variety Magazine's Sports Humanitarian of the Year. But David prefers to be known as the CEO who travels the world helping people. David, thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you.
So, yeah, I don't know. I guess this is the first time for you being here. I like to get everybody jazzed up and energized and crazed out, getting ready for the workshop this evening. So I wanted to ask you, I'd love to learn, if you could, just share with us a little bit about your story, how you got to where you're at today, and some of the hurdles that you've faced, and some of the places where you maybe fell down, but you got back up and reinvigorated yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I believe life's about lessons. So if I could just take a moment to take you through that journey, I think it'd be helpful for everyone, especially in the career capacity. I grew up with six kids and a single mom, completely broke in a place called Akron, Ohio, not too far from Indiana. And I had one goal in life, to be rich. And I'm sure some of you out there probably have the same objective in life, is to be rich. And the reason I wanted to be rich is I wanted to buy my mom a house and a car. The reason I wanted to buy my mom a house and a car is because with six kids and a single mom in a two-bedroom apartment, the only time I wasn't happy was when I catch my mom crying from financial stress. The car would break down, the dishwasher, she didn't have enough for summer camp, concerned about how she's going to send us to school. And having the mom that I had, the fetus wasn't fully developed until after graduate school. My mom believed doctor, lawyer, or failure. That was the career path that we were given. And she drove our home on two core principles. One, wake everybody up at 5 a.m. so you're too tired to get in trouble. And two, she was a black belt in the martial arts. She was a third-degree black belt in the martial arts of Jewish guilt. So those are the two driving principles of how she ended up with six truly successful children, five, not counting me, that went to the Ivy Leagues, Harvard, Penn, Columbia, summa cum laude, extraordinary students. But I just wanted to be rich. And I thought I'd be rich from playing football. I got a scholarship to go to college. And when I got ran over in my first game by a guy named Christian Okoye, and better known as the Nigerian Nightmare, who actually won the AFC Player of the Year. But when I got ran over by him, I remember lying on my back saying doctor, lawyer, or failure. So I immediately at 18 years old at 147 pounds decided I better be a doctor. And after the season, I went over to visit my oldest brother, and he was doing his residency, and I met him in the hospital. And to his surprise, the first thing out of my mouth was, I hate hospitals, which gave me the best advice of my life, because he could not believe that I was pre-med and that I hated hospitals and couldn't believe I wanted to be a doctor. And I didn't even know doctors had to be in hospitals. I thought a sports doctor just had to be on the sidelines or in training rooms. I had no idea. So he gave me this piece of advice, and everybody should write this down. He told me, David, you need to be more interested than interesting. And so the first lesson that changed my life is that I changed my perspective, that no longer was I just going to be interesting, that I was going to be interested in everything I did, interested in acceleration and growth and helping others and a variety of other things that I could do. I was going to be interested in being the best that I could be. And I knew I couldn't do that being a doctor. So doctor, lawyer, or failure, I decided to go to law school. Now, I was so focused on being rich that I actually re-engineered the law school that I wanted to go to by what law school and what position at that law school would make the most money. And I did research and found out that oil and gas litigators made the most money coming out of law school, and Tulane University in New Orleans had the top maritime law program. So I went to Tulane to be an oil and gas litigator. But I had a core principle or philosophy in my life of never limiting my point of entry and never deciding what I wanted to do, or attaching my happiness to that. So when I graduated law school, I had two job opportunities. One, to be an oil and gas litigator and make six figures, and the other was to make 250 grand a year selling legal research online. So I went to my mom, who was my trusted advisor, and I asked, what should I take? What job should I do? Without blinking, she told me I need to be a real lawyer, that the internet in 1992 was a fad, and that nobody would ever make any money in the internet. And if I wanted to be rich and I wanted to buy her house and a car, that I should definitely take the law job. Uh, for the second lesson of the day, especially considering your ages, write this down. I'm really good friends with Gary Vee, and I know he tells people not to listen to their parents, but where we differ a little bit is I believe that you should take all advice with gratitude. You should take it like a handful of sand, and the advice that you agree with, hold on to very tightly, but the ones even from your parents that you don't, let it fall through your hands. In other words, just because somebody loves you doesn't mean they give you good advice. And so many times we make so many mistakes in our lives because we're putting faith in what other people want for us. I consider faith the aggregate of what we think, say, do, and believe, even the unconscious competencies of our personality traits, characteristics, obsessions, and addictions. Most importantly, faith is voting. And I see so many kids today voting for what other people want for them, and then they're disappointed, resentful, or offended when they get it. They're putting vote for what their parents want from them, what their friends want for them, what the internet says you should have. If you're going to take anything away from today to be happy, it's vote for what you want and be willing to work for it. Work hard, work smart, work long for it. But you got to vote for what you want. The more votes you give for what you want, the greater likelihood it'll be elected into your life. And so I voted for the internet. 9 months out of law school, I was a millionaire. A lot of people ask me how I became a millionaire so quick with a comp plan of 250,000. You know, I'm a math person and I still live my life with the lens of productivity and accessibility with efficiency, effectiveness, and statistical success. I reversed engineered my comp plan. I said if most people are working 8 hours a day, I was going to be productive for 16 hours a day. I was going to be twice as efficient to make that 32 hours a day. And I was going to be twice as statistically successful to make it 64 hours a day. I also told myself that from that day on, I never was going to work, that I was going to separate my life into activity I get paid for and activity I don't get paid for. And I was going to learn to love every activity that I did. I wasn't going to love every activity that I did. I was going to learn to love every activity by finding the light, by finding the competition, by finding something gracious and grateful inside of what I was doing. And I was going to move and shift my perspective to love what I do. So activity I got paid for 64 hours a day, I did it 7 days a week. So in 9 months, when I was getting all the awards, the accolades, and the $1 million, which is great, I laughed at them when they gave me those awards and accolades because inside my head, I'm like, I didn't even hit the comp plan. In fact, I told one of my bosses, I'm like, hey, I'm disappointed because I never really reached my comp plan. He said, Dave, you did $1 million. Your comp plan was 250. What are you talking about? I said, yeah, but I worked 10 years. Right. I did. I worked and was productive 10 years of activity I got paid for within 9 months. I parlayed that. The company did very well. West Publishing was bought by Thomson Reuters, previously said, for $3.4 billion in 1995. Took advantage of that merger with Thomson Reuters and took the trajectory into the internet in the Silicon Valley, where I assisted in raising over $169 million in the wireless proxy server space for Everypath. Now, remember, I have no engineering background. I have a law degree. My mom made me take the bar, which I did pass, but I was a great salesperson, and I was more interested than interesting of how could I quantifiably talk about the reasons, impacts, and capabilities of the internet, and now the wireless internet, this middleware space. And then eventually, through my passion and purpose and desire, hard work, strong work, and long work, I got offered the CEO job of the world's first smartphone. Samsung manufactured phone called the PC phone. It was the world's first Windows CE device in 1999. We won all types of awards. I was a multi-millionaire into my 30s, and I had everything. I was worth over $100 million. I married my dream girl from the 4th grade, who in 6th grade, my best friend, asked her to go study for me, and she said no, so I threw an egg at her. At that time in my life, I did buy my mom a house and a car 9 months out of law school. I would tell everyone at that time in my life that money would buy happiness, that money was happiness, that I had lived my life not listening to anyone and just achieving one thing, that money. And I attached all my happiness to that money. I had every car that I ever dreamed of, planes, trains, automobiles, motorhomes, jet skis. I could buy whatever I dreamed of. When I built my dream home in San Diego at 32, I remember lying in bed specifically the first day, and it was in Rancho Santa Fe, and thinking to myself, oh, shoot, I'm not happy. For the first time in my life, I wasn't happy. And so I started buying more things that didn't make me happy. I started buying different things that didn't make me happy. I started surrounding myself with the wrong people and the wrong ideas, started doing the wrong things. 2 years before I lost everything, and I lost over $100 million. I went bankrupt in 2008. In 2006, I had three things occur that really changed my life. 2 years before I lost everything. Number one, looking back, when I was 30 years old, my dad, who left when I was 5, was my hero. He also created one of the most guilt-ridden problems in my life, is that my dad was very wealthy, married a girl half his age, closer to my age than him. But back then in the 70s, fathers didn't really give child support. So it's what they call a deadbeat dad. My mom worked two jobs. My mom was a teacher and then packed our dinners in a station wagon and went and filled up turnstiles at the 7-Eleven so we'd have enough money to eat. And this guy right here, from 5 years old till 10, would sit in that car every night and tell my mom what a loser she was and how great my dad was. And my mom never said one word to me. That had a great impact on my life because at 30 years old, 10 years old, my dad forgot my birthday and he lied to me and said he didn't believe in birthdays, which ruined my relationship with him because I was an intelligent 10-year-old and felt I didn't want a dad that lied and oversold and back end sold and manipulated me. And but at 30 years old, the incident that made a difference is he gave me a birthday present. He gave me a beautiful blazer, and when I brought it out of the box, I put it on and it fit me perfectly, which was the biggest compliment of all, that he had taken the time to ask my wife what size I wore. And more importantly, I started to cry until I opened the jacket and found that he had torn out all the pockets. So I called him immediately, completely furious and frustrated and sad. And I said, Dad, you gave me this beautiful coat for my birthday. I was so touched until I opened it up. You tore out all the pockets. What are you trying to torture me? And he said, No, I want you to remember me by that jacket. And I said to him, What, that you're an a hole? And he said, No, I want you to remember that you're just like me. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm nothing like you, man. I'm happily married. I'm a good person. I'm not a liar. I'm not a manipulator. I'm not an overseller or a back end seller. I'm nothing like you. I never want to see you again. And he said, Well, that jacket isn't for wearing. It's for hanging in the closet to remind you of me and to remind you that you cannot take anything with you when you're gone and that you don't want to be the richest man in the cemetery. I hated my father at that time for everything I hated about myself. 2 years before, I remembered that I wasn't happy. I remembered that jacket and I remember why I was given. And it was a seed that started to grow in my mind. And I went golfing with my friend, that same friend in the fourth grade or sixth grade, I'm sorry, that asked my wife to go steady for me. And my very best friend, Robbie. And I asked him, How come you don't hang out with me anymore? And he literally looked me in the eyes and said, 'Cause I don't like who you hang out with. And I told him, I'm not doing what those guys are doing. I'm not drinking and doing drugs and going to the clubs and things that I'm not supposed to be doing. I'm married with 3 kids. I'm not doing that stuff, Rob. You don't have to worry. And he looked me in the eye and he said, You can lie to me, but don't lie to yourself. I literally left there crying. This is 2 years before I lost everything. 2 weeks later, after that, I was partying with the guy. I'd gotten a new job. I was working as CEO of Lee Steinberg Sports and Entertainment. People ask me all the time how I got a job in sports. It's because I literally opened myself to help my friend who was doing a reality show, and Lee Steinberg just happened to be that person. And I was credible and I emotionally attached to him. I gave him quantitative reasons, impacts, and capabilities and displayed them to him. And talk about putting yourself out there and believing with attention and intention you can do what you want. I ended up within 48 hours of being the CEO of the most notable sports agency in the world with no sports background at all. And I'll tell you, those coincidences occur when you put your attention on what you want, you put the proper intention into it. Coincidences are not accidents. They're the coinciding of everything that you want in a perfect place at a perfect time. And that's how I got that job. Meanwhile, at the home front, the Lee Steinberg guy was partying with Little John and came home after lying to his wife at 5:30 in the morning to find his wife for the first time in her life, the wife that he adored since the fourth grade, telling him that she wasn't happy and that she was going to leave him unless he took stock in who he was and what he wanted to become. The initial reaction of Bozo right here was anger, frustration. I went to bed. When I woke up, I was thinking about how I was going to get divorced, what lawyers I should call, how ungrateful my wife was after everything I'd given her, Ferrari, Porsches, beautiful homes, beautiful children. I was so angry, and it just hit me when I was sitting there. I started thinking about that jacket. I looked over at the closet and just thinking about that jacket and started realizing, man, I'm just like my dad. I am a liar. I'm a manipulator. I'm an overseller. I'm a back end seller. And I'm not living my true self. I'm not living to my potential. And I started thinking about my friend Robbie. I'd been lying to myself. And then I started thinking about my wife and that I was sitting here blaming her with a lot of shame and justification, and that I better take stock in who I was. And I lied there and I wrote down these four things: gratitude. I wanted to have gratitude again. I wanted to be that kid that was had nothing, that was grateful for every single thing, the kid who learned to love what he did, the person that found the light in everybody and everything, no matter what they thought of him. I was that positive, gracious person. And then two, empathy. Empathy was so powerful because it was forgiveness. And I have a philosophy: you can't give what you don't have. So I just thought to myself, man, I got to forgive myself so I can forgive everyone else. I'm so angry, and I got to forgive myself. And then the third one was accountability, which was derived from my mom's teaching. My mom had this great saying: stop living below the line. You're living in blame, shame, and justification. Stop living below the line. Live above the line in accountability. Ask yourself, what did you do? What did you do to attract this to yourself? And two, what are you supposed to learn from it? Son, life is about lessons. And the lessons are going to keep on coming until you learn them. And if you haven't learned them, they're going to result in pain. You need to learn the lessons. You need to be accountable for everything in your life. And you need to take accountability for where you're at. This is 2 years before I lost everything. And then finally, inspiration, effective communication, which inspires me by clearing the corrosion and the interference of all the ego-based stuff that I was living through: the need to be right, the need to be offended, the need to be superior, inferior, separate, the need to be anxious and fearful and angry and frustrated. All these different needs, I had to clear those. I had to live back into inspiration so that it could come through me for others. I needed to inspire others like I did when I played football, when I played baseball, when I was in a classroom, or was I talking on a microphone. I was an inspiration at my company. I had lost all my own inspiration, and I had no forgiveness or accountability and no inspiration to give to others. So I went out, apologized to my wife, started living my life in a different way, trusting the universe to be of service, to provide value first, to ask two questions. Number one, how could I be of service? How could I provide value? And two, most importantly, radical humility became me. I asked everybody in person, on the phone, via email, and now media meant radio, print, and TV back then, but it also means social media now. I ask everybody, do you know anyone that can help me? Those two questions, if you're going to write them down, will change your life, especially in finding a job, an internship, or just help in what you're trying to do to give yourself situational knowledge and perspective to accelerate and grow in the manner that you want to. Ask people how you can be of service, ask people how you can provide value, but most importantly, ask them, do you know anybody that can help me? And go ahead, do them a favor by asking that, because old guys like me and women my age, all we want to do is help people like you. And it just takes the courage and the humility to ask. To end this real quickly, uh, the most crucial time was when I did lose everything. I was living in a rented place, small place, rented furniture. My wife was pregnant with my fourth child, three daughters under 10. I had the job with Lee Steinberg. He didn't release me. Coming home from telling my mom that I was bankrupt, thinking that that would set her back into some sort of failure, heart attack, but worse, I'd forgotten to take my mom's house out of my name. So I'd lost her house in the bankruptcy and had to tell her that she was moving. I thought that would kill her. The most inspirational time in my life with my mom was not just witnessing the sacrifice or investment that she made in her children, which is why they're all so successful, but more importantly, it was when I looked at her and said, Mom, I've lost everything. You're going to have to move. I even lost your house. And she, without blinking, she just asked me if I was okay, if I needed any money, and if there's anything she could do for me. I realized at that moment what unconditional love was, what my mom meant when she told me when I was super wealthy that I was lost and that someday I would find a purpose to match the passion and profitability that I was capable of getting. And then the capper of it all was when I went to my wife with my first paycheck after bankruptcy, living in that rented house with rented furniture. Uh, I told her I was going to write this check to Warren Moon, my business partner, Hall of Fame quarterback, and I was going to write the check so kid could go from my high school to college, because I never would have been able to go to college without the scholarship I received. Now, my wife is pregnant. We have 3 kids, daughters under 10. I'm in a rented house with rented furniture. Yes, I have a good job, but I just lost over $100 million. And the first thing that I had thought about was how I could help somebody else. And so I asked my wife for her permission if I could do so. Without blinking, my wife told me, "You finally get it." She started to cry. She goes, "I'm so happy. You finally get it. You trust the universe." I said, "Oh, I do. I'm so sorry. Uh, I totally trust the universe." She said, "Then double it." I looked at her. I said, "I don't trust the universe that much." And I did. Uh, so I didn't double it, but I think it's important because still today, my motto is make a lot of money, help a lot of people, and have a lot of fun. And I fight the ego-based consciousness of scarcity, that there's not enough for me, even though I have 4 children and some are in college, some aren't in college, and I'm sure I have graduate school and weddings and other things in front of me. And I still give money. I built 2 community centers in Africa. I don't believe anymore that money buys happiness, but I think money's super important. Money, it allows you to shop, and if you shop for the right things, you're going to be happy, and if you shop for the wrong things, you're going to be unhappy. But I want everyone to have the opportunity to make as much money as they can so they can help as many people and shop for what they want to make themselves happy. My major mission of why I'm here tonight is to impact, hopefully some of you, to impact others, to impact others to be happy. Read an article that 90% of all college kids are unhappy, full of anxiety, depression, suicides at the highest level it's ever been for people under 25. And I am on a mission to teach people gratitude, forgiveness, accountability, effective communication, and inspiration, to teach people to coincidence their life into what they want. Find the internships, the jobs, and I am here of service, happy to give everybody my information. I will be happy to help whoever it is. We have an internship program in New York and California in the sports field. I have connections. I'm 1 degree of separation from everyone in the inner circle of business, sports, finance. All you got to do is ask. Hopefully, I didn't go too long, but I appreciate everyone, and I'm happy to answer some questions.
Dave, that was amazing. That was powerful. So I think real quick, I want to take a break and ask the students that are in the audience. I want to ask you, who or what are you grateful for? Post it in the comment section. I think like there's a lot that we can take away from Dave's story, but I think really gratitude is one of the most important and most powerful things that David talked about. So I want to ask you, students that are watching, who are you grateful for? Post it in the comment section. Literally, who are you grateful for? Just be cognizant. I mean, if you can't think of one person you're grateful for, you're not doing it right. You've not listened to Dave's story. You've not truly internalized the things. Like you didn't get here all by yourself. I can promise you that. Somebody gave you a tip. Somebody gave you a hand. Somebody gave you some help to get to you help you get you where you're at today. You don't have to have this ego of like, hey, I've got it all down. I know everything. I didn't need any help. I did it all myself. Like you did do a lot of what you've done by yourself, but you also got a lot of help on your way too. Who has helped you? Who are you grateful for? Post in the comment section. So Dave, this is awesome. We've taken a much higher level look at how can we take our job, our first internship, our first career to that next level, and really started looking at our own personal happiness of like, am I doing something that's fulfilling to me? And fulfilling doesn't necessarily mean the work itself. It's how the resources that you're receiving from the work that you're doing is being delivered or essentially transposed to a audience or to a group of people that you believe that can best use it and can best utilize the resources that you have. How can, as a student, I mean, I guess as a student that's trying to seek and find this out, I guess as you know, maybe Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as our search for self-actualization happens, what are some things that we can look out for? How can we, like, when we know that we're on the right track or when we know we're on the wrong track, how can we try to see the warning signs and start taking action in the right direction? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think taking inventory and raising your awareness, getting into the habit of understanding habits. What does that mean? There's 4 core values that you want to look at and examine in your own life. Number one, and they change every day, and it's okay that they change every day. Number one is your personal values. So look and see where your integrity, character, love, family, your health, all of your personal values, prioritize those by what's most important first, and really understand your values so that when you encounter opportunity as well as circumstance, that you can make the appropriate decision based upon predetermined personal values that you have. The second is the experiential values. Experiential values are key. What do I want to experience today, right? What are those lessons that I want to learn? The third is the giving values. What legacy do I want to build for myself? What does that name mean on my back? What is that legacy? And then the receiving values of what do I want to access today to give to other people? That all receiving comes through me for others. And understanding your personal, experiential, giving, and receiving values, we can then determine relationships, surrounding ourselves with the right people, the right ideas, determine goal setting. We can determine decision making of incidents that can change our lives. I see so many things in my life today that, because I'm firm on my own values and I reevaluate them every day, that I make decisions that are conducive to acceleration and growth. One of the problems with being young, to get a little bit more granular than the hypothetical theoretical shit that I was talking about before, just to get really straight, I think one of the biggest problems when we're young is we can't look back for a long time. So what happens is we set a goal and we get 25% of the way there and 99% of us quit. And what we don't understand is we are accelerating and growing. And as long as it took us to get to 25%, in half as much time, we'd be at 50%. The saddest thing about that is that 99% of the 1% quit when they get halfway there, because they start voting for what other people want for them. Oh, you should have a house, a car, a job, married, kids. Why are you living on your mom's couch or in your car? Why you don't make any money? You've been, dropped out of Harvard and you're building this stupid Uber business or this Microsoft business or whatever it is, or Facebook. But the other thing is those 1% of the 1% are only half as much time away from being 100% there. And if everybody can take this down and remember this, because you're all so young, is that they are going to laugh at you. They're going to smirk at you. They're going to doubt you before they applaud you. And if you can have the consistent every day, persistent without quit pursuit of your potential at the 25% mark, at the 50% mark, at the 100% mark, you now go from being a fool to everybody applauding you, and you're the luckiest person, and everyone will tell you how they believed in you. The coolest thing from that point is you're half as much time, you'll be at 200%, and half as much time, 400, half as much time, 800%. Pretty soon you are the most successful person, and everybody wants to live your journey in your life. And that's possible for everyone. You just got to imagine it, become inspired, and then have the right strategy, action, and awareness in order to effectuate it.
I love that, man. That makes a lot of sense. Gosh, I mean, there's so much that comes from that. It's so often we give up on the things that we want to pursue because it gets difficult. And I think that's a product of it. Nothing's going to be easy. Sometimes I'll actually hear students, they'll say things like, well, I chose this career path because I thought it would be the easier route. I know this sounds odd. I've actually talked to some people, I'll mentor some people that are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs. And they're like, well, I first decided to get out of my job to go in entrepreneurship because I thought it'd be an easy route to make a lot of money and, do something where I was the boss. And I'm like, man, entrepreneurship is not like easy. It's really, really difficult. It's really, really painful. But and I think, by the way, this is with any career path, the longer you stick with it, the only failure is giving up. I mean, you can make pivots, you can learn and say, okay, this is not the route to go down, but based off the knowledge that I have, I'm now going in this direction. That's totally fine. But the only failure is giving up. And yeah, I think, I don't know. And Dave, if you disagree, let me know. But I mean, I think if you want to go all into something, don't have a plan B. Don't set yourself up with some backup plan. I think set everything into plan A, because any focus on a plan B is like your get out of jail free card of, well, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to just like slide into this cozy, easy route that is not uncomfortable, but doesn't force me to innovate. I think if you're going to take the island, burn the ships. What do you think, Dave?
That's awesome. I think as long as you don't limit I think as long as you don't limit the point of entry, I am very hyper focused on objectives and goals, and I force people to understand the non-conflictual nature of detaching your emotions from the outcome, but having an objective every day. And I think it's okay to change your objective day by day to alter the trajectory of it, but you have to be all in. And I think that's the real point that you're making. For me as an entrepreneur, which I love, I have one, rule, and the best piece of advice I give to people is just make sure you stay in business. For me, everything evolves in business. My business looks nothing like I thought it would. It looks nothing like it was in my business plan. None of the businesses that I have ever do, and neither has Yahoo or Google or any other, or Uber. None of those businesses look the same today. Amazon was a garage bookstore, right? I mean, let's be honest, it wasn't the world's biggest marketplace. So if you can tell yourself every day, have I done everything it takes to stay in business tomorrow, and then go for acceleration and growth, and stay keen on that plan A. As long as plan A doesn't limit your point of entry and allows you to pivot, I'm all for plan A. You should never go back to a lesser vibration, a lower vibration, the easier route. I don't believe in work. I believe in activity. You get paid for activity, you don't get paid for. I don't believe, in taking time off and resting. Like, I believe in maximizing the activity of sleep. Any of you want to know what my biggest mentor or coach is? It's a sleep coach. I think people don't understand you spend a third of your life sleeping, and it's when you're connected to your subconscious and unconscious mind. And I practice sleep. I have a mentor that helps me to sleep. I get the most out of my sleep, which allows me to be the most productive and accessible person when I'm awake, allows me to be much more efficient, effective, and statistically successful than others. And I think that so many people on earth do not get what they want out of life because they forget about a third of it.
I think that's so powerful. That's so true. Sleep is extremely important. I mean, if you can't have rest, you can't focus. If you can't focus, you can't really be on your A game. Going back to that whole thing when I was talking about like state in your body, like physically in the state, you can't be in state if you're tired. Like, that's not possible.
No, and also you're accessing information from your subconscious, 40,000 of the same thoughts, your neural pathways that you're firing in that state are in its highest state of mind when you're sleeping, and let alone your unconscious and the frequency that you create through the quantum memory that you have in your DNA and the epigenetic level of what you're activating from that DNA from 4 generations or 4 lifetimes ago. I can go on forever and ever if you want physics and genetics, but most importantly, sleep is 1/3 of the time you're going to spend on this earth. You might as well maximize it.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me. And I am very curious into the science because I am, yesterday we were talking about some of our routines, like our morning routines. We do any things to get ourselves like ready to go. I'll do like the cold showers, and I'll do like the meditations every morning, and I'll do like the exercise and reading every morning. I'll do things that I think will help get me into state. And actually, I think that might be a good segue. Students, what are things that you do to get yourself into state every single morning? What is something that you can anchor to your days to get yourself ready? And are there things that you can do that you want to be more cognizant of when it comes to your sleep to make sure that you are intentional about it? I try to wake up at the exact same time every single day and go to bed at the exact same time every day because my body can get into a routine. When it gets out, I'll wake up in the middle. Like, if I stay up late, it's the worst because then I'll wake up when I normally would wake up to go pee or whatever. And then like I try to go back to bed, but it never works. It like never ever works.
You're right. And it never will. But I think that's really important. I keep 2 routines. One, my daily routine when I'm at normal home time. And then I have an adaptable routine, which is based off of the time spent. So a minimum of an hour a day on my health, minimum 30 minutes with my wife, 30 minutes with my 9-year-old, 2 minutes with my teenage daughters, 1 minute with my mom. And then I'm a student in my calendar every day. I study my calendar for productivity and accessibility. I have a 5:20 rule. All my phone calls are 5 minutes. My meetings are 20, or the objective to keep them that way. Because I think after 5 minutes, you're just visiting. After 20, you're just visiting. I have so many different things that I do, like do it now. I ask myself, can I do it now? If I can, I do it. If not, it goes to a do it now folder. I then schedule it in my student of a calendar, go back to the do it now folder, prioritize what's most important first, and then what's most urgent. If something's important but not urgent, I delegate it. If it's unimportant and unurgent, I drop it. So there's a variety of different things that you can do. One to kind of finish up here. I know we're coming to the end, but
Yeah,
really important, the cold showers and the meditation. What you're saying, I describe to people the importance of understanding that you get one action in the day, and then everything else is a reaction to that one action. So what you do is find your highest frequency at the beginning of the day. You utilize meditation and cold showers and other activity. Your state, you try to raise the frequency of everyone before this YouTube live that we did. And what is important about that is if you start your day, your first action at the highest frequency, and use that as a baseline to know when ego-based consciousness need to be right, offended, separate, inferior, superior, frustrated, anxious, whatever it may be, and you lower your vibration through that ego-based consciousness. If you start your day at the highest frequency, well, instead of accelerating downwards into a lower frequency of ego-based consciousness and creating habits and other things that you don't want in your life, start voting for what you don't want. If you create this high frequency and you have a baseline of it, you can stop, drop, and roll back up to the highest frequency every time you get in your own way, or you go into ego-based consciousness. You can live in that consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential. You can be happy every single day. Not all the time. I'm not happy all the time. I teach this stuff, and I know one thing about lessons. Every lesson that I've learned, I forget almost every day, including gratitude, forgiveness, accountability, and inspiration. Every day, I forget to be kind at one time or another. Every day, I forget that it just doesn't matter. I have a rule number 6, which I learned from Xander's. Rule number 6, I've used in business for years. It's don't take yourself so seriously. If anyone wants to know rule 1 through 5, there are none. Like I tell myself all the time when I'm ego-based conscious, don't take yourself so seriously. It's really, judgments and conditions don't matter. You want to vote for what you want. You want to be who you want. You want to give and know that you're here to take a whole bunch of lessons in. There are no mistakes. There's just lessons. And remember this about forgetting every lesson, by the way. We live in a time where it's easier than ever to access all the lessons, even ones we've never learned, let alone the ones that we've forgotten. So live your life to learn these lessons, learn to live those lessons, learn to love those lessons, and learn to be happy, and you'll have an extraordinary journey.
I would love to ask, what do you do when you catch yourself in a negative state of mind? I know I'll sometimes do this where I'll sometimes, I'll get jealous of people on occasion, and I'll be frustrated to that person that I felt like didn't treat me right. And yeah, sometimes, I mean, it will, like in my mind, I'll be like, oh man, I'm gonna like want to get back at them. But I realize that's not the right, eventually, like I get over it. I realize like I sleep on it. I'm like, that it's not even worth my mental energy. How do you catch yourself? How do you just like, because sometimes it's tough to get out of your head. Sometimes you're like, I'll like pace and like will talk to myself like through the whole situation of like, okay, just like whatever, get over it and move on. How do you handle that sort of thing?
I created something called the Cancel Clear Connect.
Yeah.
So anytime I think, say, or do something negative, I literally say cancel. So I don't allow it to be part of my being. I literally, sometimes out loud, right? I'm just like cancel. If I put judgments, conditions, attacking thoughts on other, if I get separate, inferior, superior feelings and frustrated, anxious feelings, fearful feelings, which happen every single day, I just start saying cancel, cancel, cancel. Now, if those thoughts keep coming back, right? They come back before I go to sleep or when I wake up or while I'm sleeping, then I know it's part of my subconscious mind. So I need to clear that. So now I take the 6 breaths of Buddha really deep and I tell myself clear, clear. What I'm going to do is try to train my subconscious not to hold those thoughts, that negative energy anymore. And then if it still comes back after that practice, after days of that practice, I know that it sits in my quantum memory, that I have to create and shift my energy. And that's going to take a consistent, persistent behavior to shift that frequency, the strength of the frequency, the spectrum of the frequency, the clarity of the frequency. And so I literally have a visualization exercise that I do where I picture this thought that's giving me the anxiety, and I find a light in it with my eyes closed when I'm all by myself, and I cover it with the light. And then I think about what I love the most, and I cover what I am most afraid of with what I love the most in one big light. And then I take that light and I hold it over myself in my mind's eye until I actually feel my energy shift. And I call this the Cancel Clear Connect. It's in my first book, Connected to Goodness. By the way, if anyone wants to follow me or DM me at David Meltzer, or dmeltzer.com, David Meltzer on LinkedIn and YouTube. If you want to reach out, you give me an address, I will mail you and pay for shipping for the book, so you can see the 7 principles and key elements in order to manifest everything that you want to be happy in life and business.
Dave, I'm gonna take you up on that, because that's like what you just like gave to me was, I mean, honestly, I'm being selfish. I'm asking questions for my own purposes here. By the way, students, I mean, we're getting a little bit up on time, but I know Dave is extremely just open to reaching out and connecting. If
Yes.
you have questions, post it in the comment section. But yeah, I mean, I think that was so powerful. I know for me, yeah, I just, that concept of cancel, and then I mean, I know, I mean, I guess we only have a couple minutes, but the 6 Buddha breaths, what is that? It's just like,
Yeah,
just
so
like
6 breaths. So anytime I feel an ego-based consciousness, before I react, I take 6 breaths deep through my mouth, nose, out through my mouth, straight spine, and it allows me to get. What's funny is when I'm in ego-based consciousness, your mind, body, and soul are on fire. We've all felt it before. We've all gotten in fights, arguments, felt terrible, know that we wasted time, energy, emotion, and money off of stupid stuff that we've done. It's amazing how the 6 breaths of Buddha will allow us to stop, drop, and roll. When your mind, body, and soul are on fire, everybody knows you catch on fire, you got to stop, drop, and roll. 6 breaths of Buddha, you are back on track at your highest frequency, and all those things that gave you that anxiety, fear, unhappiness, or negativity will disappear and dissipate from your life. I promise.
Man, Dave, this was awesome. Dave, this was amazing. I have very much enjoyed having you on this workshop. I want to just make one final point before we end off, or before we sign off at 9. But anyway, students, thank you all for being here. I've really enjoyed this workshop with Dave. I hope that you've been able to take this knowledge and been able to apply this. This has been, I mean, gold, so much golden insight. I know a lot of times this might seem like way over your head, but I mean, just to start being cognizant of a lot of these things about just where you're going. It's not like a one-trick pony. There's not like a cheat code to like finding happiness. It's just ultimately being cognizant of yourself, being grateful, and just more or less trying to be consciously aware of when you're feeling good, when you're feeling bad, and how you can take actions towards where you can feel how you can feel more consistently good. So this was our final workshop of the semester. I'm so grateful to have you all here, and I'm so grateful that you all could be here to watch all of these workshops. If you are on your second or third call, go ahead and try to finish up those 3 phone calls with your mentor before the end of the semester. In early December, I'm going to send a post-program assessment to you all. It'll just be available on your dashboard. Take that. That's just the final step of the program for this semester. And then next semester, sign up. I'd love to have you join the program again. Next semester, you'll get paired with a new mentor. We'll bring in different speakers. We'll bring in different insights, different topics, and ultimately be able to continually give you the advice and the guidance that hopefully can allow you to continue to thrive in your careers. I'd love to have you again. And also, if you could encourage your peers to sign up, I'd love to have them in the program next semester as well. So Dave, before we let everybody go, how can students find you? How can students connect with you? I know you mentioned LinkedIn, Instagram. I even noticed that you posted on LinkedIn your cell phone number, like where people can text you. Like, is that still a thing? How does that work?
Yeah, you can all text me in my community, 949-298-2905. Also, just remember my name, David Meltzer. You can Google it. You can go to YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, at David Meltzer. I do and answer everything myself. That's why I'm up at 4 a.m. Happy to answer any questions. I'm of service. I'm here to help. All you got to do is ask. And if I can't have, I will. If I can't help you, I'll find someone that can. I got to jump right now. I got my kids and wife waiting for me. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dave. This has been